Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Also, make sure you subscribe to Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. You can cancel at any time. Link is right here in the description. You bypass the Apple upcharge. You get access to the most heat, the most conversation, the most information. That's Off the Floor. Also, check out Prize Picks. That's our official fantasy partner. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down $5, get $50 to play right away. Again, that's prizepicks.com, the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, legal in the state of Florida. You can play across the sports spectrum, but make sure that you use the code 5 FIVE, prizepicks.com. And now, today's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Yikes. Five on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing rubber frauds. Down the Biscayne. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust. Inspire have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at Five Reasons Sports. We got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. We are actually coming to you before All-Star Weekend is officially over, because that's what we think of All-Star Weekend. Greg, Draymond kind of said it best. I understand that they're trying to make this thing more competitive or get players to care, kind of like the NHL players care when they're doing the Four Nations like they have over the past week. We saw that great game between the USA and Canada and all the emotion. This is another failed experiment in my view. I don't really understand why they can't just do USA versus the world, sort of like the NHL has done. I don't know. Like, what is this? Like, Team Kenny, Team this, OGs. You need like a roadmap. Like, OGs to me is a podcast. I mean, you need like a roadmap to figure out who's on what team. I don't know what I'm rooting for. Cade Cunningham makes his first All-Star game. He plays like 4 minutes. I just don't get it. Like, we're going to talk about Tyler Herro in this episode. That's the floor plan. We're going to give credit to Tyler. I sort of feel badly that his first All-Star game had to be this Michigas, to use a Yiddish word. I don't know. I don't know what this is. Like, what is Adam Silver doing? Like, I don't get it.
So I don't know that this box score is accurate. I think it is, but it looks like Tyler Herro played 7 minutes. That means that like Stephon Castle and Dalton Connect in the game that followed played more minutes than basically all of these guys who got voted in by the coaches as reserves, as all-stars. Like, it's not just Tyler. It's Evan Mobley. It's Jaren Jackson. It's Jalen Brunson. It's Jalen Williams. Like, this is like who the fans came to see. And after that first game, which was only to 40, they're done. And then that's the end of their night. So Tyler played the equivalent of like garbage time when he could have gotten a little, like, let's say 7 minutes a half is what you normally would get. If you're a first-time all-star, maybe you get a little more than that. At least you get that much time. In this situation, you were out all these guys who made the team. And to me, it fell flat on its face. There was entertainment in between that I didn't think was pertinent to the game. It didn't enhance the experience. They got to figure something else out, because to me, this didn't work. The good thing is that Tyler, he had a good weekend. Three-point shooter, extraordinaire. I think you can now really say he's among the best in the world at shooting three-point shots, and that is a huge thing for him. And then his first All-Star game, which he embraced. We'll get into more of that, but just this format, for me, it didn't work.
Oh, it seemed like last year, Adam Silver suggested after the game was a debacle last year because nobody played any defense, which not that that's new, but they used to. And look, I've covered 11 of these in person, okay? And I've covered some that were actually entertaining, like at least parts of it. And I feel like half of those Kobe played in. Kobe and Iverson, I felt like used to take this game seriously in particular, and there was like a real battle to try to win MVP and like you stamp yourself as like the player of that year. Russell Westbrook used to play hard in these things. And then it just went totally off the rails, okay, where nobody was defending. And I get it that he wanted to change it up. I don't have a problem with Adam for experimenting in some ways. I think the play-in has been a reasonably good addition. There are some
Agreed.
things that he's done that have worked. But, like, he even like, suggested maybe just abolishing the All-Star game, and honestly, that would have been better than what we just saw. Like, this is not that's not basketball. Like, these guys are never gonna play together again after that. You don't even know who's on what team. It just seemed like a big advertisement for inside the NBA, which again, I'm happy inside the NBA is remaining in some form. Okay, it is a valuable part of the sport, even if none of them watch the games. I'm good with all that. Like I did not want them to go away, but it just seemed like it's all about the personalities of guys who don't even play anymore. And then you've got Draymond on there trashing the format, and he's right. He gave it a 0 out of 10. He's right, but it's like this is the NBA's product. Like, and
Yep.
I don't want him to sugarcoat it. I appreciate the fact that they put him on the air saying that. But if that's what guys think, that the current players, and then LeBron didn't make anything better by announcing an hour before tip that he wasn't going to play. Which again, I know that's part of all this too, because LeBron never wanted to participate in the slam dunk, and at times has not gone hard in the All-Star game, even though I thought he did early in his career and didn't late. But anyway, we don't want to devote too much attention to time to it, other than to just say again, we're podcasting before it's over. That's how much we cared about it, and Tyler Herro's night is done. So let's get to Tyler, and I think we're going to do a couple of things here. I think we want to talk about how he got to this weekend, which we did handle in an episode when he was named, what happened on this weekend that we think will benefit him, and then kind of where it goes from here, and also just kind of where this season fits. And I'll tell you a couple things that really stuck out to me from this weekend in particular. I love the fact when I see the videos of him interacting. We can talk about LeBron and all the others. When I saw him interacting with Dwayne at like an after party last night, and we're coming to you on Sunday night, but on Saturday night with the 3-point trophy and Dwayne giving him his props, that has got to mean a lot to Tyler. Like it just has to. Like this is the franchise player stamping you after his buddy sold out the franchise. We know all that sort of stuff, and that was in Golden State, and rooting for Buddy Hield to win the 3-point contest, which I guess that's his new teammate. He's allowed to do that, but to have Dwayne be there backing Tyler, when now Tyler Herro is kind of, would we say the second best 2 guard in Miami Heat history? Is that fair at this
Yeah.
point? He's been
Yeah, I think we're there. And like the other cool thing was directly after the 3-point shootout, GP ran up to
Mhm,
him. Timmy ran up
mhm.
to him. Like, so there was, and obviously Pat was in the stands, which I thought was cool. So like there was a lot of connections there. You could tell that Tyler was taking in this moment and embracing it. You can also tell that, like, I think that there's I appreciate that he wanted to be a damn all-star and that like
Mhm.
that was a personal goal of his. And some people say he puts his personal stuff, his personal stats, touches, game above the team. Well, this year he completely showed that he was willing to put the team first in the way that he changed his shot diet to better the, efficient ways that he gets to his looks now and the way that it just should benefit the team overall, the way that he plays. But he wanted to be an all-star and he made the team. And I thought that that's huge for him. It'll be interesting to see in the second half of the year how it translates. But I just think that ultimately to have another guy, and we talk about not just making the all-star team, and there's not a ton of guys, Ethan, in the Heats. Like if you go through historically, guys that have been around that have made the all-star team. I mean, yeah, it's a long list. They've been around for 30 years, but relative to other teams, it's not a huge list.
Well, there's
And
only
so,
3 drafted, Greg.
yeah,
The only ones that they've drafted have been Wade, Bam. Well, I know I shouldn't say that. Rice was an all-star, right?
no, but he
So
never made the all-star team in Miami. He made it
that's
directly
right.
after he left in Charlotte.
That's right. He made it the year after. So with Miami, it's just Wade, Bam, and Tyler, right? That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm,
That's huge.
That's
I
it.
mean, and I was thinking of all the all-stars and still it was a shorter list, but to your point, it's
Mhm.
even shorter.
Yeah, three guys that they drafted. I mean, and you take a look at the guards that have been there. The only others, Hardaway and Dragic. That's it. Goran 1 year.
Mhm.
And Timmy. So, I mean, you're putting Tyler into this class. Look, when you and I did the episode ranking the top 50 players and what was it, 40 players in Heat history, which I still cannot believe we did that exercise. God, if this team gets eliminated in the play-in again, we're gonna have to come up with something else, Greg. I just thought of that. 40 worst players in Heat history. Can we do that?
I
I,
mean,
th- I think
we
actually
could
people would
do
have
it.
more fun with that, right? We're gonna get some hate mail. But when we got into we had Tyler as the 16th best player in Heat history. I don't think if we did it now, we'd get the same kind of reaction we did before the season, right?
No, I think we were actually onto something there, and that all
Mhm.
he's done is further kind of cement himself among Heat like great players. I mean, I also want to say that Tyler
Mhm.
still has a lot left to prove, and we should talk about that in this episode at some point. But to this point, this season, he's been Miami's best player. That includes Bam
Mhm.
Adebayo, who y'all know I think is ultimately the Heat's franchise pillar at this point. But Tyler's been the best player this year. He deserves the props this year. He got them at All-Star weekend. The Heat they grow 3-point shoot champion, 3-point shot champions on trees, right? It's been
Mhm.
Daquan Cook, James Jones, Jason Capono. The list goes on of all these different guys that have came through and won that contest. Tyler won it. He was happy to do that. 7 minutes in the All-Star game. That's what
Yeah.
sucks, is that he could have played more, but it's still cool for Tyler. And in a season that has been otherwise pretty tumultuous, like Tyler's been the one thing that could make a Heat fan smile throughout it. And I know that
Mhm.
could sound corny, but that is something that you want to find it, with your favorite team.
Well, and his attitude. I just you mentioned from the very beginning, he's called fragile by Pat. So what does he do? He plays all but 2 games in the first. We're 2/3 of the way through the season. And he went the first 36 games by playing all of them. The stats now: 23.9 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. The splits have come back a little bit lately because he went through a bit of a shooting slump, but still 46.5% overall, 38% from three. The big improvement this year has been his efficiency from two. His efficiency from two. He's averaging the same 4.6 2-point makes per game, but on 1.5 fewer attempts, and he's also still shooting 86% from the line. His attempts have gone up from 2.6 to 4.2. So he's become a better offensive player, more well-rounded offensive player, while having to handle more double teams than he's ever faced before. We'll get to that on the other side of this because that is kind of where this goes. But the other things about this weekend, first thing, he does not strike me. And I've covered a lot of. I wish I could have been in San Francisco this weekend. I couldn't be, but I've covered a lot of players' first All-Star games. I was at Dwayne's first in 2005, which also happened to be LeBron's first. That was in Denver. I was at Bam's first, and I was at Dragic's first. And there is just an appreciation for it on the first go round. But Tyler seemed like even deeper, and it's because of what you talked about. I think it's because he was counted out, but then his quote to Tim Reynolds too of the AP afterwards that he said, the Riley's reaction to it, and he went up with Mickey and Nick afterwards as well in the stands. But Riley's reaction is saying that I believe he's always believed in me. Again, think of the context that we were going through an offseason where there was talk again from the all-time Heat captain Udonis Haslem about Tyler might be best suited coming off the bench. Pat talking about how he's fragile. Well, mentally and emotionally, he's not fragile
They
because
had him
right.
there was moments where I saw him in a locker directly next to Damian Lillard at
Mhm.
the All-Star weekend.
He beat him in the 3-point shootout.
Yeah. That's
This
where
is
it
the guy
was,
that he was
pregame
supposed
to
to be
that, yeah.
sent in for the he literally beat him head to head. Now look, it's one 3-point shootout, but I just think what you've seen and the single biggest thing, and I'm never going to compare Tyler to Dwayne as a basketball player. Okay, they are totally different players. Dwayne is an all-time great who would have been a top 20 player of all time if not for the knee injuries and some of the things that happened later, towards sort of the late middle of his career. But the one thing that Tyler has, and that's why I like seeing them together, that Tyler has that Dwayne has, there is a resilience about him. It's a different kind of resilience than Dwayne had. Dwayne's resilience was more from injury specifically. We talk about Tyler being fragile. I mean, Dwayne missed almost the whole 07-08 season. There was a shoulder injury. There were the knee injuries. There was the bone bruises. There was all kinds of things that Dwayne had over the years. But the thing that always got me with Dwayne was it was the whole, fall down 8, get up 9, and everything else related to that. There was absolute resilience to him. Like, you could not break him. Like, every time that you thought he was done, like, and you put, Greg Popovich puts Tiago Splitter on him, a 7-foot center, like in game 2 of the NBA Finals in 2000, was the 13, right? And
Yep.
Dwayne comes out and has 32. Don't humiliate me like that. Don't play me like that. You look at the Indiana series, okay, 2012, where he didn't run back on defense, and he and Spo get into it. And I know things that were said in there that never got reported. I was right next to it, okay? And Haslam was right there trying to break it up and everything. And then he goes and visits Tom Crean, and LeBron gets him a layup. He's in the worst slump of his career, okay, in the playoffs. LeBron gets him a layup, and then 2.5 games of just them blitzing Indiana, LeBron and Dwayne. There was this resilience to Dwayne. That was what always impressed me the most, even in life, things he's dealt with in life. We just found out about the cancer diagnosis that nobody really knew about. Everything else that he's dealt with over time. Tyler has a certain resilience to him. He does. Like, he has a toughness to him. He's not a guy we've seen Heat guys, like, things go the other way for them. Like, because Hassan Whiteside's
right.
an example, like, they never get it back. Tyler, people wanted him out of town. The injuries, not healthy for the playoffs and all that. And he's still there. He gets to enjoy this moment. And I thought he represented the organization really well this week. And like, just they captured him. I know they follow him around with the social media and all that. I'm sure there'll be an Inside the Heat that's done on this. They always do that. But I don't know. It's like, it's hard not to feel happy for him. And you're right. There has not been a lot to feel happy about this season. And he's pretty much it. I mean, really, he
I
he
mean,
really
unless you
is.
consider the 2 big lineups a big win for,
We just did an
philosophical
episode on
reasons.
that. It ain't a big win on the offensive metrics so far. Defensive, yes, 99 rating, Bam and Ware, but beyond that. But yeah, Tyler, I just think you have to feel happy for him at this point. All right, but where does it go from here? That's the big question now. So we're going to talk about here as we go forward. Before we do, talk about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Can't remember which one we decided to go with today. Oh, yes, I do. All Pro Construction Builders. Reach out to our guy, Danny. It's allproconstructionbuilders.com. Hurricane season, it is always right around the corner in South Florida. Don't take for granted that you're protected. Make sure, bring them out. Make sure that they check you out. Again, All Pro Construction Builders will give you a 5% discount on your orders if you mention 5 Reasons, 5 on the floor. They also partner with our show 305 guys as well. So check them out. They specialize in impact windows and door installations for residential and commercial properties. Call Danny at 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. Again, you mentioned 5 Reasons or 5 on the floor. You get a 5% discount. They'll give you the free estimate, help you protect your home in less than 8 weeks, and the 5% discount. So all of it, our friend Danny, huge Miami Heat fan. Again, it's allproconstructionbuilders.com. All right, so now what? Because here's the thing. Like, I guess the first thing is he's got to be healthy come playoff time. He was last year. Jimmy wasn't.
He has to
So
be.
has to be. There's no way around that. We don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. Right now, they're in a bottom end play-in spot.
Yeah. Playing fodder right now.
Right.
They got a lot to clean up. And we can't run from that.
Mhm.
Great fun story this weekend, but Tyler's coming back to a team that needs to figure something out. They're on a losing streak, and Tyler individually is going to have to, as the primary option on this team right now, although I do think Bam is going to, as the season progresses, you're going to see his attempts go up, and that will be something that will be counter to what we've seen in every other season where they go down over the course of the second half of the season, or even the last third. Tyler's, he needs to stay where he is. He has to stay as efficient as he's played, and then he has to ramp that up come playoff time. That's the kind of stuff that they have to see. because that will cement him as someone who could be looked at as not just a one-time all-star or a guy who makes it on a fringe year, but a perennial all-star. And he's young enough where he has enough, speed on the runway where he can still take off and become that. And I know that, just a little while ago, he was, basically in every trade rumor that the Heat could come up with, not the Heat, the organization, but like that where you would hear from the Heat. So to me, you got to see the consistency. Nobody really is going to take this 100% at face value, Ethan, until he does it in the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing, but it's going to be hard for him to do it in the playoffs because with the supporting cast that he has now, and we can say the supporting cast because on offense, he's the featured player. Bam has been terrific over the last dozen games. Okay, much better than he was earlier in the season, but it's a false expectation to expect him to carry the offense. Hero is expected to carry the offense. Bam is expected to carry the defense. The problem with this team right now is they don't have enough two-way players who can carry you on both ends. Until they find that, they're going to be play-in fodder. That's just kind of the way it is, and that is the ongoing search. We'll see again what Wiggins can add, but in an ideal world, he's a complementary piece also, a very good complementary piece, but not the piece. They're still got to find the piece. And again, they made a decision not to pay Jimmy to be the piece into the future. And with the way that things played out, I feel like there's sort of justification after the fact because that relationship was broken, and we know it wasn't going to get any better as he aged. But I'll say this, all right? Tyler's got a really tough task over the rest of the season. I think that in the context of the league, this is really important what happened this weekend. I do think it's going to give him a lot more confidence. I think we're starting to see him grow into his leadership with this team.
They need that.
Maybe it'll be more of a shared, maybe it'll be more of a shared leadership with Bam, but maybe he can take the burden off of Bam from a captaincy perspective, where it seems like Tyler has this very strong relationship with the young players on the team. You saw the way that Ware praised him on social. Jaquez praised him on social. There is a connection there between him and some of these other young guys. So I feel like, and he's talked about the better spirit in the building. I mean, a lot of this is veiled, but not veiled. Like we knew what was going on behind the scenes. It was difficult for all of them. But the thing is, as much as it's better to get Jimmy out of there so that everybody can clear their heads, it doesn't necessarily make things easier on the court, Greg.
No.
And that for Tyler, right? And that's the problem because he is getting blitzed and played in a way that you don't even have to worry about the possibility that Jimmy's going to give a shit that night. No. Teams used to have to worry about that. Now they don't have to worry about that. So now it's just we're going to send everybody at Tyler and he has to react to it. It's like what he faced in the Boston series last year every single night. I wonder if he's going to get to the end of the season like that. I wonder if his efficiency numbers are going to continue to go down. I feel like they need to lean more into Davion Mitchell, maybe as a ball handler to get Tyler off the ball a little bit more. They need to stop playing Rozier so much because that does not help Tyler. They need to maybe lean into Jovic a little bit more playing with Hero. They need to create easier opportunities for him. If you're asking him, even though he's put on weight, he loses weight over the course of every season. If you're asking him to carry night after night after night after night, Greg, I think it's a losing proposition. So I'm encouraged by what I saw from him in the first half, big time, first 2/3 of the season. I'm happy for him, represented himself great. I'll let you close here. I think he's going to have a hard time duplicating what he did the first 2/3 of the season in this last third. I think it's asking a lot of him, honestly, with this roster.
You have to hope that Davion Mitchell fills a specific need next to him and that works itself out. And then Bam, I think that don't underrate him as a guy who facilitates and brings the ball up off rebounds and stuff like that. Like they've showed a little bit of that recently, and they're kind of letting the leash off a little bit with him bringing up the ball. So that could be another option. This is an interesting stretch because Tyler does become extension eligible soon, and inevitably we're going to have this pod, and we're going to save that for a different day because it's a much deeper conversation. But this does inform a lot of the decision making of, can you build a team that can win a championship with Tyler as a featured piece? I still think, and I think you echoed this on playback, we were the only two on for the All-Star game tonight.
Yeah, where was everybody?
I don't know. They abandoned us.
I guess they didn't care about it's either they don't care for me or you or the format. I'm not sure. Maybe it's all three things.
The chat said that it was like Kobe and LeBron up there. So we'll take that kind of,
Yeah, it's like
but anyway, now I lost my train of thought. This is it.
I'm sorry.
Tyler Herro. This is all the kinds of, building blocks that inform the decision of, can you build around him? I think, to your point, he can probably be the second best scorer on a championship team. If your 1A guy can get a bucket in his spot and is just, they need a lot to go right for it to all work. And that's the way that this team is going to be built. But that's really, every team needs things to go right. So I don't want to overstate that, but Tyler has to prove it. And no matter what, the fact that there could now be no playoffs may mean that the Heat need to make a decision on him from an extension perspective when they haven't seen more of a playoff sample. And that just further muddies the waters, long term.
I think the single biggest thing that a 1A scorer needs to be able to do in the playoffs is get to the line. And that's the only reason that I just don't see him becoming that. I just don't think he's ever going to get enough calls. I mentioned the free throw attempts are up, but marginally. They're up from 2.9 to 4.2. He's not getting 8 free throw attempts per game, 8, 9, 10. That's where Jimmy was able to elevate in the postseason. That's where, even though he misses a lot of free throws, Giannis, Jokic, they get to the line.
Dwayne.
SGA, obviously, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just really hard to do that. I think as a secondary scorer, you'd have an elite team if he was your second best. If he's your second best, if he's clearly your second best scorer, Bam is your anchor on defense, but you've got somebody who can get to the line consistently, is closer to his prime, more consistent, okay, shows up in the regular season. If you found that to pair with Tyler, then you're cooking. Right now, they don't have that, okay, and that's what they're going to have to keep looking for. But it doesn't mean you punt on him. And I know that there's some that say, well, you sell high, you sell high, you sell high. And I know everybody says that. And I understand if you're playing like franchise mode in like NBA 2K, I get it. But when you're dealing with someone that you developed, who has broken through, has done the things you asked him to do, who was kind of keeping the culture, so to speak, but also improving as a player, that's easier said than done than say, okay, now let's just trade him. People are going to look at us and say, well, if I say that and say, oh, I see you had no foresight again. I just don't think that's their lean. I don't.
Don't
They
make your
have to.
fans feel the way Mavericks fans feel. End of story. Jimmy was already had to go, and fans are having to process emotionally. No more Jimmy Butler. Let's not go with Tyler Herro. Let's not take it there. Like, that's from my perspective.
Aggregate it. Greg compares Tyler Herro to Luka Doncic. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Use the code FIVE, prizepicks.com. All pro construction builders. We'll have more episodes for you over the weekend. Hope you enjoyed All-Star Weekend. Like I said, I didn't get to the end of it. Have a good one.